abandon its non-aligned foreign policy position. I'll read that again. Should the government of South Africa abandon its non-aligned foreign policy position in global conflicts that involve global superpowers? That is the debate topic in today's debate. It's going to be a cracker of a debate, and I want you to participate in this debate. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note as you are on the road. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032 for our open line number. Our WhatsApp line is 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dixon on Facebook, and we'll be able to take some of your comments and questions as the debate progresses. On the proposing side, we have Stellenbosch University, and their first speaker is George Botha, and second speaker, Yana Ratif. From the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, we have Lerato Ntondini, as well as Domingo. My apologies, as the second speaker for CPUT. That's the order in which they'll be speaking, and I do once again encourage you to participate and be active in this debate. We're going to take a very short break, and then on the other side of this, Stellenbosch University opens the debate as the proposing side of the topic today.
Since 2005, the month of October has been our National Transport Month. With this month, the government aims to raise awareness of the important role of transport in our economy. In so doing, this month also serves as the ultimate encouragement of participation from civil society and business. Working together, we can provide safer, more affordable, accessible, and highly reliable transport for our country. SAfm, leading the conversation this Transport Month. This week, today on SAfm.
Welcome back. My name is Oliver Dixon, and thank you so much for joining us here on This Week Today. This is the sixth round of the SAfm University Debate Challenge. Stellenbosch University up against the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. I just want to remind you that we're streaming this live across all our platforms. So go onto our Facebook page, our YouTube page, as well as our website, and you'll be able to get directions on where to watch and how to watch this debate live. Otherwise, you can just continue listening on 104 to 107 nationwide. You can also listen on safm.co.za. Again, proposition side, Stellenbosch University; opposition side, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Should the South African government abandon its principal position of non-alignment in conflicts involving global superpowers? We open up the debate today with the first speaker from the proposition side, George Botha.
Good evening. In recent years, the geopolitical landscape has been marred by ever-increasing conflict. Immediately, the Russian-Ukrainian war comes to mind as we approach the 2-year mark of sustained conflict, as well as the more recent conflict within Israel-Palestine and the tragic loss of life accompanied thereby. But in the face of such global tensions, the South African government clings to its principal position of non-alignment. We, as the proposition, hold that the South African government should abandon its principal position of non-alignment in conflicts involving global superpowers. In framing this debate, a few key definitions are in order. We will understand non-alignment as a foreign policy approach where a country refrains from taking sides during geopolitical tensions or conflict, and instead maintains neutrality, independence, and a stance of non-interference. Conflicts can be broadly understood as any form of geopolitical tension, most notably taking the shape of warfare. Global superpowers are to be understood as a state that possesses military and/or economic might, as well as general influence on the global stage vastly superior to that of other nations. We also want to clarify the scope of this debate, as we are not debating whether countries in general should abandon policies of non-alignment, but whether the time has come for South Africa to abandon this policy. Our government holds to a principle of neutrality and non-interference, in which South Africa continues to promote peaceful resolutions of conflicts through diplomatic channels. An objective third party playing the part of an agnostic referee blowing his whistle, a sound all too easily ignored. The concept of non-alignment can be traced back to the Cold War, where an increasing number of developing nations in the global south sought to resist the influence of global superpowers by not formally aligning either with the USA or the USSR. Although this stance might have been reasonable in 1994, when South Africa was a new democratic nation, it has become clear that adherence to this position is no longer in the country's best interest. We anticipate that the opposition would argue that abandonment of our position of non-alignment is not in our country's best interest and would jeopardize the nation's sovereignty as well as our standing in the global stage in pursuit of world peace. This is not the case. On the contrary, I will argue that upon close examination of our national interests and foreign policy, one would quickly discover that it is our insistence on non-alignment that forms the greatest hurdle to achieving our ideals. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation explains that our foreign policy is primarily informed by our Constitution, wherein we find the ideal of a world at peace, where justice and equity can exist within democratic sovereign nation states. Unfortunately, South Africa is still a developing nation itself. It is unable to realize this ideal, largely due to its policy of non-alignment. In his address in preparation for the 2023 BRICS Summit, President Cyril Ramaphosa himself stated that in order for Africa to thrive, we must silence the guns. The problem with the position of non-alignment is that although it may serve as a preventative to conflict, its insistence on remaining neutral at all times leaves South Africa powerless to intervene in foreign conflicts. It leaves us with no way to silence the guns once they have already started firing. In Section 8 of our national interest document, we read that we, as a country, subscribe to rules-based international alignment, where potential conflicts are resolved by the development of regional, continental, and global rules. But what use is it to subscribe to these international rules of engagement when we refuse to align ourselves against those who openly break these rules? To remain neutral during conflicts where one party is the clear aggressor is unjustifiable. Consider the liberation of South Africa from the apartheid regime, which was largely due to foreign nations not being neutral in our conflict and rightfully condemning apartheid as a crime against humanity. For South Africa to now assume a position of blanket neutrality is painfully ironic. Any POIs?
In terms of, okay. So one thing that I want to ask in terms of non-alignment, right? You say that it has been failing, but it could be also the reason why the corridor never progressed to a hotel, because more and more countries were becoming non-aligned, giving these superpowers less power or less influence overall.
So the reason I mentioned the Cold War is just to give a bit of a historical overview of where this non-alignment movement, because we are part of a non-alignment movement of 120 countries, and this originates from the Cold War. There's no debate about that. So I gave some arguments against our non-alignment. Here's some arguments for possible alignment. If South Africa were to abandon its non-aligned position, it would be in a position to align itself with global powers that already share on constitutionally shaped values and vision, and it would benefit the country on all fronts. It would greatly improve our foreign relations with the aligned superpower, which would greatly enhance our security and defense capabilities, as well as improve the economy, as foreign investors will gain more confidence in our developing country due to its alliance with a stable superpower. It would amplify the country's global presence and ability to resolve conflicts and improve our mediatory influence. Instead of being a neutral referee doing little more than abstaining in a UN vote, South Africa would be in a position to enact actual change, a step closer to peace, harmony, and our ideal of Ubuntu. Thank you.
Thank you very much to George Buerta, the opening speaker of the proposing side. I'm taking your voice note reactions to that, 086 000 2032. If you want to shoot us a call, we'll take some of your reactions a little bit later in the show. 0614 104 107. That is our WhatsApp line, where you can send your WhatsApp voice notes. Lerato Ntondini is the first speaker for the opposition side.
Panel. When South Africa decides to take a stance of non-alignment, we decide that we don't want to be aligned with the West, we don't want to be aligned with the East, but we want to have a stance that is independent from both. We want to take a stance that is aligned with principle. When we say that we want to have a stance, as South Africa, we choose a stance that is based on humanitarian rights, and that a stance that values human lives, and a stance that actually protects lives, and doesn't value politics. So first, I'm going to be starting with my rebuttal, then I'm going to go into contextualizing and framing, and I'm going into my points of matter and how we're going to win this debate. So we're going to win this debate into 3 points: that we're the side that best promotes global peace, we're the side that actually promotes sovereignty of the country, we're the side that actually promotes economic and political cooperation best for the countries in the best interest of the actor in this debate, which is South Africa. So first, I'm on to my point of rebuttal. So Team Proposition builds up a case that's saying that we can't silence the guns if we're on the side of non-alignment. We believe that the stance of the NAM is primarily that you can't even allow the countries in that movement to actually provide military assistance to countries who are in conflict, which means that they're the best side to actually silence the guns because they're not providing any guns to begin with. You can't be silencing guns when you're actually providing guns, which will be the mandate of the country when you are aligned with the West. The West will mandate you to actually provide those military weapons, but when you're not aligned, then you don't have to actually provide those weapons. Then we're going to intervention. When you increase weaponizing, you're not going to be the side that is best promoting peace because you're increasing weapons. When you increase weapons, you're increasing war, and that doesn't actually provide peace. It actually compromises the whole concept of peace. And I'll go into my substantive matter on how we're the best side that actually does promote peace. And then we speak about values and vision. There's no way that you'll be able to maintain your own values and visions if you are a country that is aligned with any particular power block, because then you'll not have the own sovereignty of the state. They, in their own contextualization, say that you're able, that the creation of the NAM was so that you can have independence, but how can then you have independence and of your own visions and own values if you're aligned with the West and the East, which is in contradiction of what they were saying. So then onto my points of contextualization, I'll take you.
Speaker, on your point about supplying weapons to wars and then in that way perpetrating wars, are you aware that South Africa has been seen to have been receiving and sending ships to Russia during the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war?
Right. So that stance in itself was something that my second speaker is particularly going to speak on, but we still maintain the fact that when you have a stance that is not aligned particularly with the West, you're not obliged to actually contribute to that. You're obliged to contribute to that in the way that they want to, but when you have a non-alignment movement, that means that you have sovereignty and you have your own decisions to make. So if South Africa wants to supply weapons, they can supply weapons based on the fact that they want to, but not that they're obliged to, right? So that's a stance that we maintain. Then we go into contextualization, right? So we say that we accept the contextualization that the stance of the IR was that of the NAM was to maintain peace, right? It's for neutrality, independence, and non-participation in military alliances, and that we don't want to be involved in the power struggles and the power conflicts of the East and the West, but rather we want to develop an independent bloc that is actually going to represent the developing countries the best, right? So then we understand that these developing countries were not particularly in interest. They don't have power in these two blocks, but however, if they're able to form their own bloc and their own independence, then that's when their power can actually really show out the most, right? So it actually gives them freedom of action and freedom of diversity, freedom of action and freedom of decision as well, and they also have the best stance for maintaining their national identity. So why would you join the NAM today, right? So the NAM is the best side that does promote peace, and I'll go into that in my substantive matter. It is the side that actually is in the best interest of the countries, and when you're having when you have the political landscape that we're in today, where global dynamics are constantly changing, you don't want to be aligned with the side of the West when the dynamics can change and actually influence and actually change the dynamics can change and actually might impact your country's stance on that. And then once you're aligned, it's very difficult to actually get out of those agreements. However, if you're not aligned, then you can maintain whatever stance that you want, right? So we're relevant in maintaining peace. We're relevant in actually opposing colonialism and imperialism. We're relevant in terms of opposing military alliances and nuclear weapons. And we're most relevant in terms of economic growth and such, right? So into my points of my substantive matter, I'll go into human diplomacy, right? So when we speak about human diplomacy, we have a South Africa that is best in it will undermine their diplomacy if they're aligned with the West, right? Because they'll be seen as a biased party. You can't be biased in terms of mediation, because that actually prevents you from being seen as a credible source. So to maintain credibility and non-biasness, you have to be unaligned, right? And we speak about economic cooperation as well. You can actually access more economic cooperation if you're not aligned with the West, because then that cuts ties immediately with the East, and then, therefore you can actually increase your economic cooperation if you have a lot of more other countries that are standing with you. And in terms of political cooperation, we're not going to take a binary approach that ignores the multilateral and the multi-layered and faceted politics of a country. We can't just align with the West just because of their interest and ignore the interest of Rainbow Nation and ignore the interest of Ubuntu of the country. We can't stand with Israel and Palestine vividly without actually layering and understanding the dynamics of the country.
You are listening to the SAfm University Debate Challenge. Send us your WhatsApp voice note reactions to that on 0614-104-107. We welcome onto the podium now the second speaker of the proposing side, Yana Ratif.
As my first speaker has said, this topic cannot be broadened to completely abolish any and all instances of non-alignment with regard to other countries and how they make use of this movement. We are solely focusing on the decisions being made in South Africa. Due to this, we need to do what is best for our people and what will benefit our country the most. As it stands, we are currently in a period of transitioning. We are making use of what is known as a transformative constitution. We are actively and loudly attempting to right the wrongs of the past. As such, we have essentially rebranded ourselves as a nation built on human dignity and equality for all. In a moment, I will explain to you how our apparent commitment to the non-alignment position does not only fail to further these values, but actively goes against them. Before that, I would like to address what House Opposition has said in their argument. So, the first speaker of House Opposition has said that the non-alignment stance is one of human life and global peace. So we are expected to sit back and wait for this peace to happen because we are not allowed to get involved in wars. We are also saying that abandoning the non-alignment position does not immediately turn South Africa into slaves of other countries for the use of war. We just stop hiding our actual actions and our actual alliances. Speaker, yes, accepted.
Tell me, what does alignment look on your side? Okay, what does alignment look in your side of the house when you are aligned as a country?
In a moment, I'll explain to you the positives of being non-aligned and that South Africa has actually been aligned. And South Africa has actually not been making use of the non-alignment position, but just saying they are non-aligned. But the actions of South African government speak louder than that. Furthermore, Speaker One's entire argument is based on the idea of the non-alignment movement and the entire ideal thereof, which is great in theory, and we do not go against that. But it's sadly not the reality of what's happening in South Africa at the moment. With this in mind, I would like to reiterate what exactly the non-alignment movement attempts to offer countries. One of the several aims is protecting human rights and the environment. We as House Proposition admit that this is a worthy cause and should be the aim of not only all governments, but also all people. However, if we apply to a system that promises to do these things, but then fails to uphold these promises, we make it harder for the people to trust the government, and we open the door for criticism, skepticism, and accusations of hypocrisy. It has been said that countries that are non-aligned choose to stay out of global conflict and not pick a side. In a moment, Speaker. Thus, we have the luxury of choosing to stay out of global conflicts. We can say this is to protect our people and that we do not owe other countries anything. But how can we claim to care about human dignity when we turn a blind eye to the blatant disregard thereof in other countries that do not have the means to protect themselves? Accepted.
Speaker, we saw that Europe, the EU, and NATO are mostly aligned with Ukraine in the current Russia-Ukraine conflict, right? But did you see on the media that currently there is masses of mass protests that are anti-war in Ukraine, that are calling out for peace? The people within those countries, so they are not supporting even their own government. How can you say that align yourself aids to citizens in South Africa supporting you?
In South Africa at the moment, we have been seen supplying Russia with arms. We have been seen accepting ships from Russia. And as early as February of this year, we were doing naval drills with Russia. Thus, we have basically aligned ourselves with Russia while maintaining the idea that we are non-aligned. So rather than keep up this lie, we must just admit our part, admit where we stand with this, instead of lying to the citizens. Essentially, we use the excuse of being part of the non-alignment movement to not make any difficult decisions. We do not have to condemn countries with clear disregard for human life because we chose to be peaceful and not partake. It is difficult to define morality and to decide what is right and what is very clearly wrong. But surely the massacre happening right under our noses cannot be condemned. We do not attempt to convince you that South Africa could end wars should they decide to become involved. We are merely pointing out a clear hypocrisy in the government's repeated claim of valuing human life and their disregard thereof at the same time. The non-alignment movement served its purpose post-World War II and when standing up against apartheid. But all such ideologies have an expiration date, and it seems as though the non-alignment movement no longer fits South Africa's path forward. To admit this is not to criticize the non-alignment movement, but rather the way South Africa has been implementing it recently. It is obvious that South Africa no longer adheres to the movement as it was originally meant to. If we were to look at the Russian-Ukraine war currently, which is a major issue that people have essentially forgotten about or become desensitized to, South Africa has not ceased contact with Russia. South Africa has not condemned Russia. South Africa has decided to remain on the side of Russia despite its claim of being neutral in any and all conflicts. If we decide which countries deserve our support, we should be able to announce it and stand by it. If we cannot stick to this policy, why do we bother remaining in this position? We cannot attempt to fall back on the excuse of non-alignment just because we are scared of criticism. South Africa's alleged commitment to non-alignment movement is nothing more than a smokescreen and has been proven as such. Whatever position the government chooses to take in conflict, they must be confident enough in that position to not try to hide from it. We are refusing to act against discrimination of the most basic human rights because we are safe and comfortable with our fence-sitting position. South Africa has been outed as not remaining faithful to the promised position of neutrality. The people are now taking every other empty promise with a grain of salt. The only way forward now is to abandon the position and admit to supporting Russia both implicitly and sometimes explicitly. The non-alignment movement cannot be effective if the government has the liberty to decide when and where they want to apply the principle thereof. As Dante said, there's a special place in hell reserved for those who do nothing in the time of moral crisis. Thank you.
And that was the second speaker from the proposing side, Yana Ratif. Taking your voice note reaction, send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614-104-107. Please keep the WhatsApp voice note short, under a minute, so that we can go through as many of them as possible. Again, that number is 0614-104-107. I welcome to the podium the second speaker from the opposition side, Domingo.
Again, okay, greetings to the House at large. So in this debate, I want to say that, to express what has been said, so I'll start this debate by basically rebutting everything that they've said, right? So then we'll go into why our case was most important in this debate and why it weighs more. So from the first speaker, they tell us why the movement of non-alignment was formed in the first place. And they go on as to say that South Africa formed it to be independent. This is the squad formed it to be independent. And it is the independent that we actually want. We want South Africa to be able to stand at the world stage and saying, no, we are not going to be aligned with you, or we are not going to be influenced with you because you are a global superpower, or you are trying to force us to follow through your rules or your guidelines. For example, I just wanted to give you, I want to give you a bit of context. For example, with the Russia-Ukraine war, right? With the Russian-Ukraine war, you actually do see European countries forcing any other country to actually join them in sanctioning Russian oil and Russian gas or Russian-made products. In that case, we see that in a case where it comes to South Africa, that is not actually independence. You're actually following through someone else's ideas. But also in a case where they're actually trying to best advocate for peace, where they're actually trying to best advocate for South Africa's reputation, right? Not second speaker. Where they're trying to best advocate for South Africa's reputation in the world, or even foreign investor trustees, right? I want to give you that when you look at in a position where you are actually aligned, what does it mean to be aligned? Which is something that I ask. When you're aligned, do you align and immediately become a part of the European Union? Or do you align and immediately become a part of BRICS? Do you become a part of those countries? Or you could align and say that I'm aligned. This is something that they didn't say. You are aligned in terms of voting in the United Nations, or in the voting in the United Nations on that side. And even if you vote in the United Nations with other side, to the point that they bring about investor trust, right? Let's say you vote with the US in the United Nations. Does the USA actually now owes you a percent, or what is this, trade market relations? Or because they can simply say no because you're not part of their bloc. So this is something that these people are actually saying. In a case where they say that when you align with other countries, and if it is their case that you increase investor confidence or you actually boost your economy, that point totally falls, or that point doesn't actually stand as it should be of actually supporting other speakers. I'll give you a chance to save your case.
Speaker, are you aware that we are in the non-alignment movement with 120 other countries, one of which is Uganda, which recently passed the anti-homosexuality bill with a punishment of potential death? So if we are with the non-alignment movement, we are being associated with countries like that.
I'm sorry, Speaker. You are actually not being associated with countries. You are not being associated with anything of that particular sort, because you're still standing up as South Africa, being the non-alignment movement. The best part about the non-alignment movement, right? It doesn't force or say anything to other countries that are within the movement that how they should be acting. It is something that they basically agreed, principles that they basically agreed on, right? Unlike NATO that says that you cannot trade with Russia, and if you trade with Russia, we are taking you out of the movement. The movement does not force a country to play within a specific category. So in that case, your case falls over, right? So the other reason that we want to speak about the relevance in terms of peace. So who remain relevant when you actually try to argue for the best side that still remains with peace, right? Let's look at South Africa and let's look at the United States. The United States has been involved in the war in Iraq. It has been involved in the war where they actually had to admit that there was no weapons of mass destruction. Recently, the United States has been trying to force Russia to be admitted in the International Court of Criminals. But everyone in the world is pointing out to their mistake to say that you have been in Iraq. What is happening to, what is happening to George Bush, and what is happening to this Tony Blair, your former prime minister? Those questions are being asked to the United States. So the United States, even though it's a global superpower, is not now in the position where they can actually stand to actually offer peace talks or actually have a relevant position. This is a position that we think South Africa should take and now feel to actually be the mediator that actually mediates for peace, or actually points the gun or who's doing something that is wrong. The non-alignment movement allows you to have future partners in the future, in the best case of economic control in terms of your own economy. So you have future partners because you have never aligned with China, you have never aligned with the United States. You're open to trade with them, and also you cannot choose the point of saying that people that you're trading with, they will be against you. No, they can't be against you. There's no reason for them to be against you. We saw that in the best example that she's given, which was proven to be false by the same United States director, or someone that they sent to South Africa, who claims that South Africa lied about, who claimed that I actually lied. South Africa never sent any armaments to Russia. So we actually see that the United States is repeatedly embarrassed. There's no reason for them to actually exclude South Africa, because South Africa still maintains its position in the AGOA. It still maintains its position in the BRICS. So in the best case scenario, the current status quo is working for South Africa. Therefore, whatever that they're saying in this house, that the non-alignment movement has failed, is totally untrue. But however, to be aligned, it's something that they've never explained within their case. What does it mean to be aligned? If you actually tell us the meaning of what it means to be aligned in this case, then that means you actually win the debate. Are you aligned in terms of voting in the UN? Or is your alignment actually go as further as to actually joining them to sanction Russia? And if in a case it is where you want to them, South Africa, to join to sanction Russia or to sanction Ukraine or a particular country, we tell you that this is simply not feasible, because South Africa is still a developing economy, and in a developing economy, you need all partners you can get. And everyone, to 120 countries in the world joining the non-alignment movement, means that the world is with it. Same with the UN. Thank you. I beg to process the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the second speaker from the opposing side, Domingo. We're going to take a very short break, and on the other side of that, we're going to open up the floor debate. But I do want you to send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614-104-107. What are your thoughts on the arguments that were raised by the teams here in the debate today? Stellenbosch University on the proposing side, and Cape Peninsula University of Technology on the opposing side. Again, that number to send your WhatsApp voice notes, 0614-104-107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dixon on Facebook. We're going to take a very short break. On the other side of that, we begin the floor debate.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAfm, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
You are listening to Oliver Dixon on the Station of the Year.
This is This Week Today. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the SAfm University Debate Challenge. Send us your WhatsApp voice notes. This has been a very hot and fiery debate. Stellenbosch University going up against the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Again, please send us those WhatsApp voice notes. And when you do send it, make sure that it's audible. Make sure we can hear you. If you're on the road, it may not sound too great, so make sure that you're in a place that's quiet. And turn down the radio. Let's hear you. Let's not hear ourselves in the voice note as well. That just doesn't sound great. Again, keep it under a minute as well. The number to send your WhatsApp voice notes to is 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. We're going to start the floor debate at this point. And when you do get the microphone on the floor, state your name and then just go for it.
All right. My name is Yana Ratif. So firstly, when Side Proposition concedes that and the non-alignment agreement worked when it was the Cold War, we believe that now we're actually entering into another war where China and the USA might potentially go at it. We believe that that is then when it's important, when we have the non-alignment actually go forth, because if we can concede that it does work in previous wars and a country's sovereignty and economical growth can impact it and help it, we believe that that's when we should still be impacted and we should stay on it. Secondly, when it comes to developing countries like South Africa or anything like that, when they do align with other countries such as USA or China, we find that in most of those instances they get bullied into changing their policies in order to keep the
your
alliance.
minute is up. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Next person, you can come up, stand up, grab the mic and go for it. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fruster speaking here. I have a question for Stellenbosch University. Is there evidence to suggest that adopting this very alignment foreign policy, would it guarantee South Africa better economic opportunities or increased investments, or compared to what it is currently experiences with its own aligned position? Let me answer that question. No, it won't, because abandoning its non-alignment position would suggest that it would limit South Africa with its economic participation, because we're currently trading with China, with the East and the West and the US, and we are currently owing both sides. So if we take a side with China, with the East or the West, then one of them is bound to send sanctions
and
to
your minute is up. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Do we have another person? Yep, let's go for it.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Inati Boilo, and I would like to ask Stellenbosch University, what is the way forward? After alignment, does it put South African citizens first with non-alignment? So what if we align ourselves with a certain superpower? Doesn't that put us under a disadvantage? What if during this alignment there are quarrels and misunderstandings? What happens next? Doesn't it put South Africa into a disadvantage? And I also want to highlight the definition of South Africa being a mediator. When South Africa is a mediator, it means that it can also make an influence without picking a side. So this puts South Africa at a better position.
Again, send us those WhatsApp voice notes, 0614104107. Before we go to the next floor speaker, let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note that has come through on our WhatsApp line.
Give a powerful presentation from both, but I do side with the non-aligned one. I think they are making a very reasonable propositions. Thanks for the program.
Thank you very much. Go for it, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. My name is Nkita Palasana. I would like to make a comment to the proposing side. As you've made an example of saying that Uganda is rejecting the homosexuality, whereas SA is promoting the homosexuality. Then we say that South Africa is a rainbow nation, and we have Palestinians and Israelis that are fighting now. And when we're saying that we are a rainbow nation, it speaks to say that we accept everyone. When you say that we must abandon our non-alignment, it says that as South Africa ourselves, there are people that we are going to reject in this country, because as South Africans, we have all those people within our space. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we can squeeze in one more floor, one more. I really want to take that last one there, and then we're going to wrap up the floor debate here on SAfm. Still taking your WhatsApp voice notes, 0614-104-107. Go for it.
Thank you. So I just have a question to that team. So in a fault or where the world is declining so much, why do we have to put so much pressure onto South Africa to perform where America is kind of faltering inside of a world system? That's just my confusion.
Thank you very much. Really, really do appreciate that. 0614-104-107. And that closes up the floor debate. We'll take a few more of your WhatsApp voice notes a little bit later on. We're going to take a very short break. On the other side of this, we'll hear the closing reply speeches from our teams, starting with Team Opposition. On the other side of the short break.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAfm 107.1 FM in Sea Point. You are listening to Oliver Dixon on the Station of the Year.
You are listening to This Week Today. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for your time this evening. You've heard this evening from Stellenbosch University on the proposing side, George Botha from Stellenbosch University, a second-year student studying theology, as well as Yana Ratif, also a second-year student. You heard from CPUT on the opposition side, Lirato Ntondini, a second-year student, and Domingo, a third-year student at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Just a reminder that the views of the debaters are not necessarily the views of institutions or any organizations that they are representative of. It is purely their views in the context of this debate. That's important to note. We're going to start with our reply closing speeches, and we're going to start with the opposition side. Welcoming back Domingo as the reply speaker for side opposition.
Okay, to the panel and to everyone that is listening, one of the few things or two main clashes that came out in this debate was the issue about independence and the issue about global peace. So in terms of independence, they try to describe independence in the case where South Africa would gain economic independence if they choose to align themselves with another country. And we won that clash by telling you that as soon as South Africa has to align with another country, that South Africa is not necessarily obligated or guaranteed a seat in the European Union, a seat in trading blocks, or a change in the current status quo. In fact, South Africa would stand to lose other partners, such as maybe, let's say, would say it's China or China's investment or things of that particular sort, right? So in that case, that they actually lost. And we tell you that being unaligned, you tend to benefit from both sides. And when you tend to benefit from both sides, you win that economic independence war. And you also win that sovereign state independence war, because you are taking a stance and you're standing on your own, just like those 120 states that they actually mentioned. Then we go into the case of global peace, right? When you look at things like global peace, in terms of global peace, South Africa can still act as a mediator without anyone pointing itself that it has been once aligned with this and one-sided with this. It can still resolve the conflict, because in each and every conflict, there are people that everyone thinks that they are right. So it is in the best interest of South Africa to actually remain in this case, where they can actually resolve it and actually become a safe haven for all those conflicts to be resolved. Imagine the Israel and Palestinian war being resolved in the United States. It wouldn't actually work in that case. If it is resolved in South Africa, it would work actually in the best case scenario. That's why we actually win that type of thing when you speak about global peace. This is something that opposition does not say or opposition does not speak of. And worst of all, the proposition fails to clarify what is alignment looking like or what is the way forward with alignment. And we actually tell you, if you want to stand for the side that protects Palestinians, that solves the Russian-Ukraine war, and the side that progresses South Africa forward in the over-moving movement of the world of non-alignment, and the side that actually promotes South Africa to be a superpower that is strongly standing, you side with side opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to close off the debate for us, we welcome back to the podium the reply speaker for Team Proposition, Stellenbosch University's George Botha.
Thank you so much. We as the proposition argued in favor of abandoning our position of non-alignment. It is a pity that the opposition didn't really engage with our main arguments for abandoning non-alignment, instead trying to focus on why alignment with either the West or the East would be problematic or bad. But we understood alignment a bit differently in the sense of not having to remain neutral in every single conflict. We expressed that it is ineffective for South Africa to play the neutral referee, that it is not beneficial for our country, and that we have an obligation as South Africa to speak against injustice, and that the non-alignment movement offers us no way of actually dealing with conflicts once they are already on the go, because we have no means of speaking against or choosing a side when gross human rights violations occur. I repeat from my argument, to remain neutral during conflicts where one party is the clear aggressor is unjustifiable. Finally, the opposition failed to engage with our most pressing arguments. It failed to demonstrate how South Africa's neutrality actually progresses our views and ideals towards a world of peace and justice and equity. Instead, it just leaves us in this strange middle ground where it is better for us to do mediation and be non-aligned, but it never explains how. How can our non-alignment actually improve the world? How can it actually lead to world peace? And for that reason, I think the proposition actually wins this debate, because we actually showed a way forward. We actually gave reasons why we think this would actually enact change, why this would actually lead to a society where we actually can see the fruits of our labor, where South Africa can actually be a global power. Alignment was never described as pledging allegiance to a foreign power, but rather being able to, in conflicts, choose a side and not always having to be this neutral referee who just delays a UN vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that closes off the debate. Our judges, who I'll introduce in a short while, will now deliberate, and they'll tell us on the other side of it who they chose as the winner and why they chose as that team as the winner. It's tense. I would hate to be the judge right now. But while we wait for the judges to deliberate, let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice notes that has come through on our WhatsApp line.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
The opposition is under the impression that the second we get aligned with a superpower or Western country, that suddenly we'll be under complete control of this country, which isn't the truth at all. Alignment means aligning our views with these countries. And the fact that we are in the non-alignment movement, but we're selling weapons to Russia, just shows hypocrisy, as the proposition has pointed out. We cannot say that we are not aligned, but then sell weapons to Russia, because that just means that we're choosing a side. If we don't want to be aligned, we choose neutrality in all bases. We cannot choose when we want to be neutral and when we want to align ourselves, because that's not what the non-alignment movement is. The non-alignment movement means we're neutral at all times and that we choose peace overall. Thank you.
Hi, Dixon. This is Ayanda Mugwena, tuning in from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And what I can say is that this is a very educational debate and something to engage on as young people, especially in the current time that we're experiencing here in South Africa and as a Rainbow Nation. And the opposition has made pretty good points there. So, yeah, thank you.
Hi, Yana Ratif speaking. I love the debate. Very interesting points from both sides. However, I feel like the Stellenbosch side is making their points far more clearly, and I do believe that their points are better researched and are perhaps more convincing. Thank you so much for the program.
Hi, this is Yana Ratif. I'm tuning in from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and what I can say is, wow, what a heated debate. It's very educational, and all the best to both teams, especially Cape Peninsula. Yeah.
You are listening to Oliver Dixon on the Station of the Year.
Thank you very much to all of those voice notes. Really, really do appreciate it. Just to remind you who our debaters are: from Stellenbosch University on the proposing side, George Buerta, a second-year theology student, and Yana Ratif, a second-year law student. From the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Lerato Ndondini, a second-year computer engineering student, and Domingo, a third-year food technology student. Introducing our judges, two really esteemed debaters, some of the best who have done it in South Africa. Honestly, they have trailblazed competitive university debating in this country in ways that make it possible for a program like this to exist. Lukhanyo Vanga, who is no longer a competitive debater, was once a competitive debater for the University of the Western Cape. He now works as a policy advisor and policy analyst. You often hear him on various media platforms as a political commentator. And one of the other judges, Nolutando Nase, who is my former speaking partner at the University of the Witwatersrand. She was also the first woman president of the Wits Debating Union in its very, very long history. And she is working today as an investment banker and an investment expert. Yeah. These are our judges. Nolutando is going to give us the results and or tell us who won and why that particular team had won. Can you join us on stage? Can we give Nolutando Nase a big round of applause?
I am a bit shorter. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for the amazing debate. I'm going to start with the why before I get into who we unanimously decided wins the debate. To be quite honest, we were quite impressed at how well engaged everybody was on the topic, and we know that it's a very topical issue. Leaders of many countries, specifically South Africa, are grappling with this in different platforms, in different spheres of the state. And the fact that you guys could pick up and engage with the real conversation, which is something that's rare in debating, was quite impressive. So be proud of yourselves, pat yourselves on the back. On that note, so the way we kind of viewed the debate was on the back of 4 clashes. Specifically, we understood that both sides of the House acknowledge and are looking and are engaging with the conversation about which model gives us the best sovereignty, which model achieves more peace, which model allows for South Africa to be more principally consistent and uphold the values that it lives by, that it stands by publicly, and which model allows us to be more economically strategic and viable and really accrue the benefits for the average citizen then hopefully after. And I mean, I think on the sovereignty point, we definitely thought that both teams were quite strong and really engaged with that on the onset, very early in the debate, and it was clearly framed well on that point. We think that where the clash or the conversation started tipping was on the peace aspect, and we really felt that opposition gave us quite a stronger case as to how their model or their world achieves better peace. We also did feel that when it came to the values and being principally consistent point, opposition didn't quite oppose proposition well on that point, and we really thought it was an important point that came through in the debate that wasn't dealt with really throughout the debate. However, ultimately the debate came down to when it comes to the being more strategic economically, accruing the benefits or the practicality of each model. It was trying to achieve a better economic outlook, if I could put it that way. And we think that ultimately the opposition team did give us a case as to how we better achieve more alliances, specifically on an economic level, if we maintain the non-alignment policy that South Africa has in place. So on that basis, as the judges, we unanimously decided that this debate definitely goes to the opposing team. But we did think... But we did think that that was not without a good framework from the proposition team.
Thank you very much. Stay with me, Nolitando. Stay with me. Congratulations to the proposing side. Congratulations to the proposition side. Can we ask the teams to stand up and join us here in front as we hand over the prizes? For the op team, opposition side. And Lucanio Vanga will hand over the prizes to the runner-up team, Stellenbosch University. And the prizes to our winners, the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Once again, congratulations, guys. Really, really do appreciate it. Well done. This has been a phenomenal debate. It means a lot that we have students with such diverse backgrounds, educational backgrounds, being able to have such a robust debate. Again, let me remind you what they do. George Botha studies theology and is in second year. Yana Ratif studies law and she's in second year. Lerato Ndondi studies computer engineering and she's in second year. And Domingo studies food technology and he is in third year. This has honestly been a phenomenal experience. We want to bring this debate to you wherever you are in the country. We've done Gauteng, we've done the Northwest, we've done KwaZulu-Natal, we're in the Western Cape, and we hope to have another debate in the Western Cape, but we want to come to the Eastern Cape, we want to come to the Free State. Please, it's coming. We promise you we're going to be there with you. And if you want to partner with us to take this to more universities, more institutions, to colleges, TVET colleges, to take this to every corner in South Africa, reach out to us. It would be fantastic to bring this debate to wherever you are in the country and to partner with you in whatever way possible. We think it really is a fantastic initiative. I did not have this when I was a university debater, but they have this now, and I think it's incredible. That brings us to the end of the show. I just want to thank our judges for their time. They don't get paid for this, and these are people who bill by the hour, and they're very expensive at the places where they bill by the hour, and they gave us their time for free. I am eternally indebted to them. I'll buy them each a can of soft drink after this as we watch the Proteas hopefully winning against Pakistan in the Cricket World Cup. They need 8 runs with 1 wicket remaining and 4 runs they need. I just got the update. They need 4 runs, 1 wicket remaining, and I think they have 15 deliveries to go. It's a nail-biter. It's a nail-biter. The Springboks are taking up New Zealand in what will be possibly the greatest Rugby World Cup final of all time. Tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Please do tune in for that. Every week I give you my score predictions, and this week is no different. This is not going to be a very high-scoring match. In fact, I will be surprised if any tries are scored at all in this match, but I'll give you my score prediction. I think it will be a 12-9 victory. 12 to the Springboks, 9 to New Zealand, the All Blacks. So, Springboks, let's go. Tomorrow's going to be a fantastic day. From myself and the team, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Good night.
Independent and impartial. This is SAfm News.
Magudumana granted leave to appeal and Metro Cop testifies in Mayua trial. Good evening. The Supreme Court of Appeal has granted Dr. Nandipa Magudumana leave to appeal a Bloemfontein High Court decision which dismissed her bid to declare her arrest and deportation unlawful. The High Court dismissed her application in June. Magudumana was arrested in Tanzania with convicted rapist and killer Thabo Bester, who had escaped from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in the Free State. Griselda Lewis reports.
Which means now that she does have the opportunity, you would recall, while the High Court had basically agreed that